Here we do see the login screen, so we're just going to click on the screen slow to pull up the login screen here generally, but it should give you a username and password area. The user should be in there by default. If it's not, it's just user all lowercase. And then the password, as you see on the lab document here, it's right here, just the word password all lowercase. So let's go ahead and type that in now. We're just going to type the word password all lowercase, nothing special here. By the way, don't use this as your own password. That's too simple. And once you enter that in, either hit enter on your keyboard or just click the little arrow here. Either way is fine. And it's going to take a moment or so to actually pull up this screen here. We'll go to where we need to in just a second. Let's go back to our lab document and just kind of follow along step by step. All right, so we did step number 9 here. We went ahead and put in our password. And then step 10 here, we're just going to click on the desktop icon in the bottom left here. And then we're going to be taken to the actual desktop screen. So let's go ahead and do that now. So you'll see, simple enough, we click on it, it pulls it up to the desktop. And by the way, I think probably most of us are not fans of like Windows 8 and Windows 8.1, but some people might, so I'm not going to diss it too much. But we're using that in this lab. So forgive me if you don't like it. It's just part of the game here. All right, so step number 11, we're going to go ahead and double click on the PCAPS folder. So we see it right here, the only folder actually on the desktop. So just go ahead and double click on that to open it up. And you'll see here we have just one file in there. So let's go back to our lab document. So now we're in step 12 here. So inside the folder, we do see a file named SQL Injection. All right, so what we want to do is we want to double click on it. And it's going to open it inside of Wireshark. Now, you might get a pop-up. I've gotten a pop-up a few times regarding a Windows update after I've launched this particular file. I'm not sure why that is. But all you're going to do is just click Close at the bottom if you do get that pop-up. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're just going to double-click on this SQL injection file to open it. And we'll see if we get a pop-up about Windows update. I may not get it in this one, but again, if you get it, just click on close. So it looks like it's just going to open for me without any issues this time around, which is great. So it's going to open it in Wireshark. Again, if it gives you an error about Windows update, you just select the close button, and then it will launch Wireshark, and you'll be with where everyone else is right now. All right, so in step 13, one thing we're going to look at is we're going to notice that in the first 3 lines, so the first 3 packet captures, oh, there it is. So that's the little message I talked about. So it looks like there was a delay there. Normally it pops right up for me. Just click on that close button to close that out. So if anyone else is getting that right now, or if you get it, just click on that close button. That'll close that out. All right, so now we're at step 13 after we've closed the Windows Update little box there. Step 13, we're looking at the first 3 lines. So this first 3 IP addresses here. We're basically just glancing at those, and we're going to notice that a 3-way handshake has occurred. So just go back and just take a look at that. So you'll see here we have the SYN, we have our SYN ACK pack, and then our acknowledgement back as well. So we see that our 3-way handshake is being established in this these first 3 lines here. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So here in step 14, the next step here is we want to click on packet number 4. So the 4th packet down, we're going to click on it to open it up. And then we're going to select the small arrow that's to the left of HTTP, so Hypertext Transfer Protocol area. So let's go ahead and do that now. So just click on number 4 here. And then we just want to select this little arrow just at the left of where it says Hypertext Transfer Protocol. All right, good deal. So that opens that up for us. Let's go back to our lab document. So what we're going to see here is we're going to see a get statement. So here in step 15, we're going to see a get statement listed with a lot of random numbers in it. So kind of tuck those random numbers in the back of your head a little bit. So let's go ahead and look at that now. So you'll see here we see the get statement right here. And if we go over here, we see a union select, and we'll talk about that as well when we're analyzing stuff. And then we also see a whole bunch of different numbers, right? A bunch of random numbers. These ones happen to be in sequence, but we do see like a bunch of random numbers. All right, so again, just kind of tuck that in the back of your head as we go through things. Hopefully the puzzle pieces will make a little more sense. But here's one piece in the puzzle right here. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So now what we're going to do in step 16, we're going to double click on the packet number 4, and that's going to just open it in a little pop-up window for us. So let's go ahead and do that now. So just double click where it says number 4. You'll see it might take a moment or so. It's a little slow to launch, and it's usually been slow for me. So just keep that in mind. But eventually it'll pull up, and you'll see the little pop-up box. All right, so what we're going to do now, we're going to be basically kind of analyzing this this packet inside of this pop-up box. So we're going to scroll down until we see the hypertext transfer protocol area, and this one's normally going to be highlighted for us, so it makes it a little easier to find. So we're just going to scroll down here, and we're looking for the HTTP area. So you'll see there as we scroll down, you see it highlighted in blue for us. So that, again, it makes it a little easier to find stuff. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So here in step 18, we're going to see a statement that has percentage 27 in it. And basically that's URL encoding, and that's an encoding that is basically standing for the single quotation mark, right? What the attacker does with a single quotation mark, so for example, like if we use a banking example, a banking website, the attacker tries to use a single quotation mark to see if there's any ability, if the website, if the database is vulnerable to a SQL, or the website is vulnerable to a SQL injection attack, right? So they'll put that single quotation mark in there, or other things as well, to try to test to see what kind of error message they get and see if it's susceptible to that type of attack. Now, basically, the goal with the single quotation mark is to break the parsing engine in the SQL database to then, again, spit back, whatever information that the attacker wants. Now, as I mentioned, most properly configured websites have protection against SQL injection attacks, but you'll always have those ones that are always going to be vulnerable, mostly because they're not set up properly. So just keep that in mind as you're working as a penetration tester. You may be able to find a way in through the company website. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's kind of the goal with all this stuff from an attacker standpoint, is that we want to figure out ways to get in to the target network, and this is a good way to potentially get into that, or just another component of our pen test of saying, hey, look, your website is vulnerable to this type of attack, and look at the information that I was able to get from your database, credit card information, your dates of birth, whatever. And if you had seen, if you've seen all these major breaches nowadays, you would understand the financial aspect of what this could do for your company. So let's work together to get this fixed. So that's kind of our main goal here with all this stuff. All right, so let's take a look here. We're looking for that percentage 27 statement here. You'll see it right here about halfway in. You'll see right here we have a percentage sign and then the 27. So again, that's just substituting that. That's actually just a quotation mark, a single quotation mark. So that way that can potentially bypass any protection you might have in place. But not necessarily nowadays. A lot of things will look for the URL encoding, but sometimes it may not. And so that might be another option you do as far as encoding different things to bypass IDS or whatever filters someone might have in place. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So we've done step 18. We took a look and we had seen that percentage 27. Again, that's that single quotation mark, the URL encoding of it. So now we're going to close this pop-up window. So let's go ahead and do that now. Just click on the close button. Now we're going to right-click any packet. So it doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm just going to choose a random one. I'll just choose like number 9 for my example. And when we right-click on it, we want to go down to Follow, and then TCP stream. So right click on your packet, go down to follow. It's a little more than halfway down the page, and then go to TCP stream. It's going to open another pop-up box for you. Once you've done that, go back to your lab document. All right, so here in step 21, what we're going to see is we're going to actually see that SQL injection attack at the top of the pop-up box. So we see it here. We see that union select statement. We see our percentage 27. Again, that's that single quotation mark. And then if you remember from when we looked at that that initial packet just in Wireshark, we had seen all those numbers. So you'll see here that we see all those numbers again, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, et cetera, all the way up. So just keep that in the back of your head, that's actually our SQL injection attack statement. That's what the attacker's using. All right, so the other things that we see that, the statement back, the HTTP statement back is like, oh, okay, yeah, this is legit, right? And then also we notice that we get a spit back of some HTML and JavaScript information. So it looks like whatever website this is, right, whatever example, this one is susceptible to a SQL injection attack because it's spitting back information that may be helpful to an attacker. All right, so what we're going to do in step 22 now is we're going to look at the HTML and JavaScript areas. So we're going to be looking down here. And what we're going to look for is do we see a bunch of A space href open tags? So we're looking for the A href and a bunch of them kind of together, right? So that's what we're going to be looking for. So let's take a look and see it. So we may have to scroll down a little bit here to take a look and see. So we're just going to scroll down again. HTML, JavaScript stuff is starting here after the doc type. So if you just kind of look for that on your screen, and we're going to start scrolling down. Again, what we're looking for is a bunch of href open tags kind of listed out all together. So we're going to keep going here. I believe it's a little ways down, so I'm going to scroll down a little faster here. And I may pass it up. I think a few times when I was testing it, I passed it up because I went too fast. Oh, no, okay. So I'll ask the question again. So let's go back to our lab document. So question number 1, do we see a bunch of ahref tags together? Is that yes or no? So I'll pause for a second here. Go ahead and answer that question in the chat. So on your screen, scroll down, look and see if you notice a bunch of href open tags together. And if you do, just let us know if you do so in the chat feature. So again, I'll pause for a second here in the chat just so you can let us know if you see it or not. And then we'll move on to question number 2 after that. So again, the question is, do you see a bunch of like href tags kind of listed together? And again, just kind of post that in the chat, yes or no on that one. Okay, good deal. All right, so I see a few people responding there, so they do. Cool. All right, so if question number 1 is yes, which for everyone it should be yes, unless your lab is throwing an error for some reason. Do we notice any similarities to these? So question number 2 is, do we notice any similarities in these href tags that are similar to that SQL injection attack command? So do you notice anything similar about these areas right here that are kind of similar to the SQL injection attack command? So any type of information that's in these href tags that might look like information that might have been in the SQL injection command attack. So that SQL injection attack string. So again, in the chat, I'll pause for a second, just answer yes or no. Do you see any similarities in some of the information, or do you not see any similarities in some of the information? So again, I'll pause. So kind of a yes or no, like yes, I see, similarities, or no, I don't. Everything looks different or whatever. So again, I'll pause here for a second, just because we have a lot of extra time here, and just let us know in the chat if you see similarities between the href tag information anywhere on those lines and the SQL injection attack command. All right, so I'll just pause for a moment or so here to let everyone kind of take a look at that and analyze it, and then just let us know. All right, good deal. So the answer is yes, right? So we do notice that we see the numbers, right? So we see, 1, we don't see 1, but we see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And if we remember from the SQL injection attack string, that was, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way through. So we notice similarities there. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So step 23 here, we're going to continue scrolling in this box. So again, whichever one you've chosen, whichever packet you've chosen, I chose number 9, but you can choose whichever one you want to. What we're going to be looking for next is this href equals vote.php area. All right, so we're going to be looking for that. So kind of just look for the vote.php, and it might be a little ways down if I recall, so you might have to scroll a little bit to find it. So again, we're going to be looking for this href equals vote.php, question mark vote, etc., etc. So that's what we're looking for next. All right, so let's go back and we'll scroll through that and take a look to see if we find it anywhere. And normally when I found it listed, just as a hint, it was kind of in the center as far as the command being in the center. So just kind of keep an eye out on the left and the center, and you should find it at some point. We'll see where it's at here. I believe it's a little ways down. And there we are. So we see I've got it right here. So I've got this href vote.php vote 1 and ID union select. So let's take a look back at our lab document. So once you scroll down and you found it, we'll go back to your lab document. So question number 3 here is, do you see anything in this area that looks like part of the attack? So anything around this vote.php that looks similar to that SQL injection attack command that we had seen earlier. All right, so again, I'll pause here for a second. So feel free in the chat, just let us know if you do see it or if you don't see anything similar. All right, so again, the question is, do you see anything in the vote.php area that is similar to the SQL injection attack string that we had seen earlier? All right, so again, feel free to post that in the chat. So it looks like somebody answered already, so cool. So yes, the answer is yes. We do see that. We see the union select statement there. We also see all those numbers again, right? The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, et cetera, et cetera. All right, good deal. So now let's go to step 24. So now we're going to scroll down the page until we see this one right here. So the TD input type equals hidden area. All right, so that's what we're looking for next. And I believe this one's a little further down the page, maybe just a little bit further than this one was kind of going. So again, we're looking for TD input type equals hidden. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so we're just going to scroll down here. And I believe it's still a little further down. And similar thing here, this one's normally kind of on the left or in the center, just so you can kind of narrow down your search. It's normally not on the right side. And I think it's shortly after this, if I recall correctly. I think we're almost to it, if I recall. Actually, may have passed it. I'm trying to remember. This one is normally a little ways down on this page. So just keep scrolling along until you find it, and then we'll take a look at it. And I think it should be there. It is. Okay, cool. So let's go back to our lab document. So again, we're going to the TD input type equals hidden. So if you see on my end, it's a little further down as that other one was. So I see a question on vote. So vote is actually just based off this particular website they're using for the lab. That's all that aspect is. It's just kind of spit back of that particular website. So I'm assuming they're using like some kind of sample. Well, I'm not sure exactly what this website is. I guess I should try to find that IP address they're using and play around with that. But yes, so nothing related to the SQL injection attack. I guess this may be the kind of more so the question in the chat there, like how does this relate? So nothing related to the SQL injection attack. It's just different areas we're looking for the attack to be accessing. So we see right here the input type equals hidden. So that's the one we were looking for. Again, it's a little ways down there. But let's go back to the lab document now, because we do have a question once we find that particular area. So question number 4 here, do we see anything in this area that looks like part of the attack? So again, do we see anything around this input type area that looks similar to that SQL injection attack statement that we had seen earlier? So again, in the chat, just answer yes or no. Do we see anything similar to the attack around this generalized area, around the input type equals hidden? Is there anything that looks kind of like that SQL injection attack, or either that or like components of that SQL injection attack statement? All right, so again, just post that in the chat, your answer there, and then we'll go ahead and answer the question. All right, so the answer is yes, right? So we see all our we saw the union statement. We also had seen all our numbers here again. So again, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., all the way through. All right, so good deal. Excuse me, pardon me. So the next thing we're going to do, we're actually just going to save a copy of our output to an HTML file. So what we're going to do here, we're going to have to kind of scroll down a little bit on our little window and possibly even resize it because it's a little weird. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go to the bottom of our pop-up box and then just click the Save As button. So let's go ahead and do that now. So you'll see here I have to kind of move mine around. I'm going to move it up a little bit and probably just resize it if it lets me. Sometimes it doesn't. And we'll see if it'll let me move it a little more here. You may have to kind of drag it up a little Sometimes it doesn't let you resize, and of course when I do that it expands it, and I'll take that. That'll work. So you may just maximize it as well. It's probably easier. So once you do that, just click on Save As. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So we're here in step 27 now. So we've clicked Save As. We just want to actually name this file. We're going to name it sqli.html. And then once we name it, we're just going to click on the Save button. So kind of easy. So again, sqli.html. So sqli.html, all lowercase there. And then just click on the Save button there. All right, good deal. So let's go back to our lab document. So now what we're going to do, we're going to close our pop-up box. So this follow TCP stream pop-up box, we're going to go ahead and close that and then minimize Wireshark. So let's go ahead and do that now. So just come here and click on the Close button and then just minimize Wireshark. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So what you see here is you see that file we just saved, that SQLI file. All right, so step 29, we do see that SQL file, and you see it's in that PCAPS folder that we were working with earlier. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna double click on that SQL or SQLI HTML web file. Kind of getting the tongue twist there, and we're gonna open it up. And so then the question number 5 is going to be: do we see the SQL injection attack command on the page anywhere? So let's go ahead and do that now. So just double click on it to open it up. Again, just the SQLI file. And then the question is, do we see that SQL injection attack command on the page at all? So I'm going to pause here. Go ahead and answer in the chat, yes or no. Do you see that SQL injection attack command on this page at all? All right, so again, just answer yes or no to that. All right, so the answer is yes, right? So if we look up top here, we see the 27 again, which again is that single quotation mark. We see our union select statement. We see all those numbers we had been looking at throughout this entire lab. And then we see, some other commands in here as well. So we see it again down here. We see also the same statement down here as well. So a lot of good information there. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So one thing we're going to do here is we're going to add an extra step. So we're basically going to open this again, and that way we see the little pop-up at the bottom. So once we open it again, you'll see at the bottom it says, do you want to allow block content? We're going to basically allow it. And all the browser's doing right now is blocking scripts from running, and it's asking us, like, do we want to allow it? Since we're in a lab and we're doing this, in training, we do want to allow it just so we can see, if an iframe opens on the right side. If it does, question number 6 is there any information in it, right? So first things first, let's just go ahead and X out of this. Just go ahead and close that, and then just double click right back on that SQLI file. You'll see here we have the pop-up at the bottom. Do you want to allow block content? Just go ahead and click that button to allow it. And you'll see here that we do have a little window that opens on the right side there. So we do see that we do get the iframe. And so question number 6 now, is there any information in this iframe? So I just got a little hint there like, hey, use the scroll bar. But take a look in there, and do you see any information in the iframe? All right, so go ahead and post in the chat. So take a look and see if you notice any information in the iframe at all. And again, just post in the chat, yes, I see it, or no, I don't. And you can also just maximize the browser window if you want to. It might make it a little easier to get to the scroll bar here. So again, question number 6 is, do you see any information in this iframe or not? Okay, so remember to use the scroll bar at the bottom here. So take a look at mine, and so for anyone that doesn't see anything at all in there, I'm just going to scroll over to the right. So if you look at my screen, if you maximize the browser window, and you scroll over a little bit, you do see a little bit of information. It's probably not really helpful information, at least in here. Just kind of kicking back like, hey, restart your router. You're not connected to the network type of thing. But it could potentially be useful information for us. So you'll notice I have a little bit of information here. Again, it's not really helpful for us to do like an attack. It just kind of gives us like some troubleshooting, like, hey, your network's not connected type of thing. But it could potentially, we could get information in here that is useful, right? So we do see, at least on my end of things, there is a little bit of information that we get spit back at us. But again, on your end, you may not have seen something, and that's okay. So all this lab was is really kind of just taking a look at, like, what kind of statement does the attacker have, like different areas we can kind of look through, a website and potentially find it, or look through a packet and potentially find information about what the attacker is doing. And then also, here we can save the output and open it up and look through the frames and see if there's any information in there, that might be beneficial to us. So that was actually kind of it for our session. That's kind of, as I mentioned, kind of a quicker session today. I'm going to open it up for questions that anyone has. Again, on anything in the course, it doesn't have to be SQL related, anything on life in general. I cannot give you winning lottery numbers, or I can't give you exam answers.